I'm not a ranger yet, but I will be in the future.
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a special episode of Once a Ranger. Today, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of originally the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but also all around Power Rangers. It is a very, very exciting day. The special, I want to say episode, but it actually is a movie. Special movie came out today. We all woke up and watched it. Rushed to record this because we wanted to get this out ASAP because we have a lot of opinions. I mean, I know me and Nev have a lot of opinions. I don't know how you feel about it, Akil, because there's a lot of people in there you don't know.
I've got opinions.
There's a lot of people in there you don't know, so I'm interested. And I wanted to bring this up first because in our last episode where we watched the movie, the 2017 movie, and Akil made a little comment about the coupling of Kimberly and Tommy, and that's why we left now you know in hindsight why we were laughing, because they're not the end game couple.
Are they not?
You didn't pick that up?
No,
I didn't catch that.
Okay, so we'll just jump into that part then.
Okay, jump into that first.
You want
canon. The Christmas episode in in Zeo is canon. This has been a long debate amongst Power Ranger fans. In the last anniversary, Kat returned. Again, it was debated because, as we know, we have a no-kiss rule, but Tommy and Kat were holding hands. This episode, officially, they have a kid.
Kat.
The
Kat
Pink
is
Ranger,
the Pink Ranger,
in the
the
anniversary
blonde girl.
episode?
Oh, this Pink Ranger is
Yes.
Kat.
Yes.
Okay, I completely missed her name.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah. So officially, the child is canon. She's still with Tommy. That is it. They're the end game. I'm sorry, Tomberly shippers. This is it. Kat and Tommy. And you know what? I originally was back in the day a Tomberly rooting for it, but I am on board. I am on board with Kat and Tommy. I think it's adorable. Yeah. What do you think, Nev?
I don't have much of an opinion. I know a lot of people, maybe it's just because when I was younger I didn't care about the relationship stuff, and then it just followed through and I was just like, whatever, they decided to put Kat and Tommy together. Okay. I mean, it wasn't much a big deal to me. So I was just like, okay, cool. It's fine. Life happens. It's kind of a good lesson for life, Because, Akil, I guess to spoil a little more for you.
Sure.
Kimberly sends Tommy a letter after she goes away for to pursue her gymnastics career, I believe. And so later on, Kat replaces Kim. She gets the power, and then later on in this episode, he gets a Dear John letter, basically. It's the worst breakup letter I've ever seen. I'm like, Kimberly, I to this day will say, you are a mean girl. You cannot just send a letter and be like, I fall in love with someone else. That's so awful. It's okay. I get it. It was hard for her because they could not get Amy Jo Johnson to come. Literally, that's the only reason why that happened.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Was she written off the show? Is that why she went to pursue her gymnastics career? Or okay.
Yes, a lot of them are written off the show. So Rocky, which
you might have noticed.
Rocky replaced Jason. Adam, who oh god, SPA. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but that was
Who's
crazy.
SPA?
So there's Space Patrol Alpha. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember, we had briefly mentioned a future season called SPD, which is Space Patrol Delta.
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
Yeah, and they even refer to the Trubian Empire, who is the villain group in Space Patrol Delta, that they're pursuing it or trying to. I forgot what exactly the detail, but they name drop it. So I think Space Patrol Alpha is the beginnings, because SPD takes place in the future when the season came out. The season before.
3 Space Patrols later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so crazy, this episode. Sorry to jump the gun, but it's so crazy. This episode had so many things in it, without taking away from the story. but made sense of everything that happened, right?
Yeah.
Because like every time I had a question, they immediately answered it. But yeah, so Adam and Aisha, the ones who were in the SPA uniforms, Aisha was yellow, and Adam was black. He replaced Zach. So I thought it was nice. They had a little like moment at the end where they hugged.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know who they were. They showed up on the screen. I'm like, okay, more Power Rangers going to come in and save the day, and then they didn't.
Yeah.
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 I really
didn't
like
know
that they
who they
only
were.
focused on MMPR, right? I thought that was
Yeah.
like very important. You see the Lost Galaxy Rangers and some of the other ones that they caught, and they morphed and they made them tiny. So I was the one jumping the gun. I apologize. Let's start from the very beginning. This movie is so cinematic. Like the opening shot with Billy in slow motion. Already, it's very, very intense. Again, as a side, I never ever want to hear "I want to see a Dark Power Rangers" from anyone ever again. All right, this is it. This is like the peak of Dark Power Rangers that we're getting.
I was thinking, even like the 2017 movie that we watched, if they had made it like this one with the like serious tone, but still has the camp and the color and stuff, it would have been 10 times better.
Yeah, I think this is what like that movie was, and I love that movie. But that movie, if it was like this, I think would have been more successful. But also, like I think of that as its own universe, right? So this is like, if this movie did that, I'd be upset because these characters are already established. Those ones weren't. They were just they were completely rebooted. Billy, like, and they're not exactly the same. They're grown up versions of the character. Like you could see their character growth of years, like, man. And
Billy learned how to speak English in the last 30 years, which is very nice.
I think he learned how to accommodate himself in society. Like he's clearly neurodivergent, right? Like I think like he learned how to be in society. Billy made me cry throughout this whole thing, because arguably he was the one closest to Trini. Arguably, like I would say, Trini was always like protecting Billy and being the one to kind of assimilate him into the group and whatnot. So it made sense. I know logistically in universe, it made sense that she was the one to sacrifice herself for him.
And they talk about that a little at the end when they're at the youth center and Billy's telling them about how Trini's the reason that he's there. She's the reason that he's alive. Yeah, and and it's so good that this is kind of like an homage to this episode just like really got to me. I just think it's so nice that this whole episode was an homage to Trini, because like I feel like in universe we really didn't have a way to kind of get over. I'm so sorry. You're good.
What happened to Trini back in the day? Like she so tragically died, and it was very difficult for all of us to kind of comprehend. And I love that this whole story was about her, because when I first heard that they were going to introduce her daughter, I thought it would be kind of like just a mention toward her. Like, keep in mind, unlike you two, I didn't watch the trailer, so I was just expecting a lot less Trini, and this whole movie was about her pretty much. And I love that. Like, I thought that was so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. Trini is second for me to Jason in terms of the characters. And it's something about the actress Thuy Trang, and like the other cast members even said this. She just like has this very strong but graceful presence about her, and like you even see that on screen, and I think she embodies it in Trini so well. So it's just like there's something about her that just really like draws me in anytime she was on screen, even though she doesn't a lot of times do much, right? She's just this like support for the team, but like you just feel her energy. And so I love the fact that the whole episode was centered around this and giving us essentially a proper tribute to the character, the actress, and her legacy. And then that's why, like, seeing the trailer and even the announcement that they were going to introduce her daughter, I was like, that's a brilliant way to carry on her legacy. And I liked that this movie, this special, it for the most part didn't ignore anything that happened in the past 30 years of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And it used a lot of what did happen to actually fuel the story. And the whole idea of Billy trying to bring back Zordon, which again, spoiler, I kill. But like, because so the Z wave, which has never been said until this episode, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the event happened, but they never had a term for it. Ranger fans made the term the Z wave, and it was just used amongst us as like a way to explain what happened. I'm still not going to say what happened, so you can at least be a little, surprised when we get there.
They explained a little bit in this episode,
right? But you don't know how it all takes place, so I'm saying that.
And that story really, like, because as soon as Rita was back, I was like, why is she a robot?
Right.
And why is she evil? And like, it was like, oh, literally 2 seconds later, explained.
Wait,
It's got
hold
its
on.
alpha. Yeah.
Pause. Does Rita become not evil?
Well, they mentioned that in this episode.
Yeah, so they say the Z wave it was supposedly because Power Rangers was supposed to end in that season in space. So the Z wave was meant to like remove all evil from the world, basically.
Oh, okay.
So yes, at the end you see Rita and Zed, who's a future villain, just turn into like humans, basically, or just like I guess they're human counterparts. I don't know. So the whole idea was that Rita was evil. Rita Repulsa was no longer a thing, right? So that's why even when watching the trailer, I was like, wait, how does she come back? Why is she a robot? Like there was a lot of questions of like, what's going on here? And then they just explain it. They're like, oh yeah, like my evil particles, atoms, which is whatever. Power Rangers is always screwed over with science, so who cares? Like I was just like, oh whatever. But like they're like, oh, her energy also was still present. It got spread across the universe, and then and Billy attempting to bring back Zordon, which I think is also like this huge thing that not that they brushed it over, but like Zordon is around for 6 years in the show. Right, and then so him disappearing, him being destroyed, is just like wild. So Billy trying to bring him back, I think it just made sense too. Like all the motivation of everything that took place, pretty much made sense. I really like that. I really like the fact that like these big things that happen in the series, 30 years of it, but specifically within the MMPR, canon, because In Space is effectively the end of MMPR continuity, I guess, in a way. And so I just really like how it was all like packed into this, and was enough for people who even only watched 2 seasons could still understand and make sense of.
I thought you were going to finish that sentence. That's fine.
I think that it also is an end of a sentence. But no, you're right. I love how cohesive this episode was. Like, in the other anniversary episodes where, for example, when Adam came back and the Morpher almost killed him when he used it because they were technically destroyed. Yeah. And then in later episode, he just has it again. And it's just like, just cuts, right? I guess in this one, they didn't really explain that. But I think after he came back the second time, it's just, the Rangers just have their Morphers again. But I think that, like, we don't really need an explanation because clearly throughout the seasons, like, they've been messing with the morphing grid. Clearly, Billy never stopped, like, working, like, doing his work as a ranger, right? Even when he, like, went to space, even when he was, like, working with the alien rangers and all that stuff, like, all of that was, like, him continuing. And now we actually see none of the rangers really kind of gave up on who they were. They at their hearts will always be rangers, and that's what it means, like, once a ranger, like when they're needed they will always come back. And they still adhere to the original ranger code, even though Lightspeed and all those have different ranger codes and whatnot. And this one is in universe, right? So this is you won't see the ones that are in alternate dimensions at all, right? Like you don't see any Dino Charge, you won't see RPM. So it is like cohesive to this universe as well. I'm so impressed by how canonically put together this episode was.
Yeah, but to your one point, they do, in a way, even if they don't maybe say everything, they do explain, like, Alpha gave Kat and Rocky these, like, I don't know what he called them, but like they use other power coins. So like they synthesize new power coins or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there was some explanation, even if it's never like the most firm or like clear explanation. They still give you like, okay, if he did that, then yeah, they probably rebuilt other like, morphers and coins and powers and stuff like that. You know, so there's like you can kind of tie the thread yourself, but it's made available, and like I liked that. But yeah, just like the flow of the story, it wasn't extended episode of Power Rangers. Like it still follows that formula in a way. Yeah. But I liked how it was done filming wise. It's totally different from like the regular show. I saw so many more shots, so many more dynamic shots, and like a lot more like close ups. And just like it felt, and the fact that I loved that they made the story that they couldn't morph, otherwise be detected, because that means they had to do more out of suit fights, and those are just always cool to see. Like, because in the suit you're not always sure if there's a stunt double or not, but like with the out of suit fights, like you're almost guaranteed that it's gonna be them, which is nice.
And they still got it, right? Yeah, remember when I was talking about Keanu Reeves and how he's still flipping around? These guys flipping around like that, like, and Rocky was like built. I was like, Rocky, like, whoa. And I noticed that each of the characters kind of still had their one, that one quirk that they had, it kind of still carried over. Like, Billy's obviously the smart one. Zach is still doing his little dancey dances. Yeah. Rocky is still obsessed with food, I like the very first thing he's like, I want to eat my lunch. He has like McDonald's fries. That was his whole shtick, right? He just like is eating all the time. Yeah. It was cute to see that. Yeah. And I'm glad. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just glad we got to see Adam and Aisha in this one, even though it was kind of like briefly. It's interesting. This is more an homage to, because we obviously didn't see Tommy for obvious reason, and Jason for obvious reasons.
Wait, what happened to Jason?
He just doesn't like to come back. The actor doesn't really.
Well,
gotcha.
I was confused about him because he came back for Beast Morphers. So but Beast Morphers was only 2 years ago. So that's why I was actually surprised that he didn't come back. But like Amy Jo Johnson said, they all had their own reasons, so it's a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. You can't force an actor to do something, so just those are the circumstances. Because this was filmed before JDF's passing anyway, but he turned it down, Amy Jo Johnson said. So it is like that scene where, like the opening scene where Trini dies, it's actually like it was the only moment where I was like, I wish all of them could power down and like be there. That would have made it very impactful, but I understand that that's just the way things are, but it just would have been like if all of them had powered down to like grieve in that moment. I think it would have been like I probably wouldn't have been able to handle it, to be honest, but
I already couldn't handle it. I was sobbing within the first 3 minutes. Like, how could you do this to me?
You didn't know it too, though. That's the other.
I didn't know. This is why I don't watch trailers. Like that raw emotion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, so good. Honestly, I think it's so interesting as well. Like, going back to my original point. Yeah, the second set of MMPR Rangers are often overlooked, and I'm so glad they, except for Adam, for some reason, keeps a coming back. I love Adam, so I'm not complaining. But also, what was interesting is Zach taking the paternal role as soon as Trini died, and Billy. Oh man. And Billy kind of distancing himself. And I thought that was like excellent writing in their part, because like I said, Billy is the closest to Trini, and he's taken this immense burden on himself that, he's the reason that she's dead. Not only because he's the reason Rita came back, but also because she died protecting him. Right? And so it would make sense that he kind of like became a recluse and like spent his whole time trying to right the wrong that he did. It's very on par with his character.
Yep.
And then Zach gave up his career to take care of this child. And why I think that's important is because later when you see Trini's daughter kind of just like be so consumed with revenge, and Zach's the one that's like, you can't be focused on being a ranger for the wrong reasons. You need to be selfless.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach is the like perfect example of that. He gave his whole career and life up to like take care of this child that like wasn't even like his, and they are all family, but it was very touching and cute.
Yeah.
But that moment where she yells at Billy, I was like, I will not forgive you until you say sorry. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I mean, it's understanding what you're going through and you're very mad, but I was so upset at that because I have like such a soft spot for Billy because he's often like excluded, and I know he already like took all that burden on himself. And then she didn't apologize for so long until the very end of the episode. I'm like, I was getting stressed. I'm like, if they end this without her apologizing, like, I don't know how I'm going to recover from this.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they did.
But I think that was a reflection of Billy's character growth in this episode as well. Because, like, he also couldn't forgive himself, not just for Rita, but also for Trini as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, him having to work through that with Min and then finally being able to forgive himself at the end, I think that was part of it as well. And Min sort of helped that along.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, too, that he was, like, really trying to find Zordon, because at this point, like, you know, me and Nev have opinions on Zordon, right? Sure. And we're like, why do you want to bring him back? But then they're like, oh, you know, he's kind of like our father figure. And, you know, that makes sense because they've just sort of, he's just been, like, with them since they were so young. We don't really see much of like their parents. We don't know what their home lives are like. So once you put that into perspective, it kind of it starts to all come together.
Yeah. But how long was he trying to find Zordon? Because like I was looking at the screens on the control panel and they're all like Cranston Technology software now. Mm-hmm. So he's like personally gone in and revamped the entire control center.
Mm-hmm.
And is that like just so that he can try to bring Zordon back, or has he just been doing Power Ranger stuff in the background this whole time?
Well, I think it's clear that his company, he's like Bruce Wayne, right? Like he built this company and it's this like empire, and then on the side he has this like project to rebuild the command center.
So is this company still in Power Rangers continuity? Like, do we?
This is the first time we've heard of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're pretty much. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Nev.
I was just saying this is an introduction to Cranston Tech. So that was cool to see. So we don't know any like logistics of how all that is working. That's maybe like the one big question mark left of the show. But I guess it's for you to assume. Yeah, he's been still doing even if it's just like maybe observing and watching. You know, maybe he isn't always going out to battle, but like he can keep an eye out for things and, you know, maybe do it on the scientific side and like handle, you know, communications, travel, and those kinds of things. I don't know, because like it seems like they have contact with all these other Rangers as well. So
yeah, they mentioned the Alien Rangers quite a bit. And like, so it's clear the SPA Rangers are working with the Alien Rangers as well, because they mention like I forget her name, but like the one girl that like Billy left Earth for.
Sestria, I think is her name.
Yeah. So it's kind of like entailed that they're all working together, that Billy, you know, obviously came back to Earth and like and kind of built his empire from there. So there's just like this mesh of all the Rangers, and it's not as separate as we knew In Space and Lost Galaxy were kind of like connected that way, but they just like never stopped working together. And I think that's nice as well, especially connecting the Alien Rangers to this, like that continuity.
But it's not just that, like, so the Bandura Protocol, they show like a brief screenshot. I don't know if either of you, when you want to pull it up, I can't because I'm recording, but like, it has names of other towns, and all those towns are where the other Rangers, like from future seasons. So Turtle Cove is Wild Force. I'm 99% sure. That's the only one I remember from the screen. But they clearly have built a network of Ranger, connections amongst all these seasons, at least in this dimension, this universe. And so that's why even when you go through the, I paused it when they showed the close-ups of the machine and all the little Rangers that were captured. There was Beast Morphers, there was Lost Galaxy, there was In Space, there was Dino Thunder, there was the Shadow Ranger, which was that was pretty dope. So they clearly have like that signal that alarm reached all these different seasons, all these different teams of Rangers. So it's just interesting to know, like, even though they didn't explicitly say like, oh yeah, we've been building up, all these teams, or like connecting with all these teams, like it's established just through that action, which is it's better to do it that way than to just explicitly say, in a way, because it's just like you're moving the story forward, but you're not having to info dump everything.
Yeah, I think that was kind of what I was trying to say in the beginning, where it's like it's so cohesive without derailing from the original plot.
Right.
And then sorry, that scene, if you don't mind me skipping to the end for a second, the scene where Trini's daughter kind of parallels what's happening with her mom. And for a second, you're like, why didn't she die? And you see that she got shot right where the morpher was. And then she opens her eyes, and there's this moment of like, oh my God, I'm going to try again. Sorry. Of like seeing Trini there and like just with her friends. And that was so beautiful. And I was not expecting that to be there. Like, we knew that she eventually would overcome her like selflessness and become a Ranger, but like having that connection and seeing her, especially like they specifically used a shot with her and Billy. And I think that was so beautiful, right? And then ending the episode on the scene with Kimberly singing, that's actually from the original footage. And they're all sitting together and singing. It was such a nice moment. Like, I'm so happy that they ended it like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then even doing the like proper Power Rangers intro at the end, like the proper theme song where they have, like it shows it did the double screen of like the Ranger and they're like out of their suit, and like, and it says Steve Cardenas as Rocky, and it's like the traditional, Ranger intro, episode intro. I loved that whole last like 5 minutes of the episode, because it just gave us all the feels.
Yeah, this really was the punch in the gut of an episode. Like, I gotta give it to Hasbro. The Power Rangers has been passed around from company to company, and Hasbro, I think, really did a good job of it. I mean, we're all a little bit worried, but because we're like, this is going to be toy first. Yeah. This episode,
This was not toy first.
Yeah. There was even like because like the end had like the original. Wait, did it have the original theme? Because the theme they played in the beginning of the episode was more of this like newer, revamped version of it, which I love. It's in the Power Rangers. It was nice, yeah, it's in the video game Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. That's the one that plays there. And I love it and everything. And like, even just like then the 6 of them running, the explosions behind them, I was just like, oh, this is a great way to just open the show, special, because you get that feel of like, yeah, this is what I used to turn on every Saturday morning or whatever. And then like it just shifts with everything, but like they kept the nostalgia while still like feeding the story. A lot of the like, I just saw the Mario movie like a week or so ago. I felt very similar in the sense of like, they gave you all those references and all this nostalgia, but it's still like focused on its story and telling it's this, whatever that story is in the current, moment, and not just like, here's all this fan service, remember all this good nostalgia. But it was like, okay, what's the current story? Which was, introducing Min and establishing where everybody is and like the lives they're living and everything like that, and where Power Rangers is. So it paid homage and tribute to all of that, but then it's still stuck with what story they're telling. And I think there was no better way than to do it with Rita. Like, it would have been weird if it was any other villain. It would have felt wrong, but they I don't know
Can
how
you imagine if it was Dubatox?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But Akil, I don't know how much of the comic you've read so far,
Yeah.
but like even how much of ever of the comic I've read, it feels like the comic in a way, because like
Yeah.
it wasn't, you know, just like those out of suit moments, those human moments when they're just like talking with each other, felt like things that wouldn't be in the show as much, right? Like in the original show, you wouldn't get as much of that, or it would be a
Yeah.
bit more, it'd be more toned down in its severity and its like emotion, you know, because it's like 20 minutes, we got to get through this so we can get to the big monster fight so the kids can like cheer. But like they let us sit with a lot of things in this special and let us feel it. Like the conversation of whether or not to tell Min was like, that hit me really hard. I was just like, we wouldn't get that in the regular show. Like we wouldn't have time for that kind of conversation. It would just be like, we gotta jump to either telling her or keeping a secret, whatever it is, like, you know. But you had to sit with Zach and Billy, who have known Trini for all this time in universe, and it's like they have to talk about like what to do while they're also still feeling the loss. Like it's maybe I don't even know if it was a day after. It was like right then and there it happened, and so yeah, it was just like it felt there was enough time for things to breathe and really feel them, as opposed to let's just get to the fight and the Megazord and then, you know, save the day.
I think
That's
it's like what you said earlier, where it's the same formula as a Power Rangers episode, but it's stretched out over, 55 minutes, so that you have time to feel those beats and feel those moments and feel the impact of each event of the episode.
Yeah. I agree with you now. That scene was so poignant for so many reasons, especially since it, again, always brings back to like Zordon's original code, even though other seasons don't have the same code, right? We cannot tell anybody that we are Rangers, not even our family. And okay, going back to that Christmas episode, I always think about it because Kat is here, right? Kat is the story that future Rangers always debate about, where it's like, is that episode canon or not, right? Because Tommy's grandson is a ranger in that, right? So then we start to see that there is a generational progression of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, despite there being newer seasons and newer Rangers and newer powers. So I think that's like a very interesting, because that episode, that Christmas episode, was really the first to kind of look into what the future of Power Rangers would be like. So yeah, so now we actually start to see the familial lineage of Power Rangers.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Akil?
About the lineage
About
of the
anything,
Power
about
Rangers.
anything, about anything about the
just-
special.
I love that you guys are talking about it this particular way and talking about the connections and talking about the long-term impact, having grown up with the series, on this movie, because I've seen half of one season of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And for me, this was still a cohesive movie. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. I didn't feel like there was knowledge that I needed to know coming into this movie. It was still a good story. It was still a full story for someone who doesn't know a lot about Power Rangers. And I think Minhas was talking about that as well. And Nav brought it up too, of yes, it has a strong emotional impact for longtime fans, but it's also like a good, impactful story in its own right.
Yeah.
So I think it did that really well.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot. I definitely have to rewatch it because I feel like I'm blanking on so much. But yeah, there's like we covered a lot already in what we were talking about with the show. The story. I don't know. I'm still processing. So if anybody else has stuff,
it's all good.
The car. Let's talk about the car.
The sequel to the car.
Wait, Akil, did you say you had a? You were saying?
I had one thing, but let's talk about the car first.
No, talk about yours because I feel like we'll derail.
Yeah.
We can talk about the car later.
Okay, so it's one question that I have is, in the show, when they do their morphing sequence and they hold out their morphers and they're like, dinosaur power, go. People can see that?
I had that question too.
People can see them doing that? I didn't realize.
I
thought it was like an artistic cutaway thing. But apparently people can see them because now Min did that twice.
Right.
So she knew what to do, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So, like, has she seen people do that? Like, what?
So there's okay. This is tough. This is a tough question. So in this movie, and I'm glad that they did this, you see Zach jump and then turn into a ranger.
Yeah.
Right? So this is when I was saying that a lot of the entire morphing sequence happens in the grid.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, I think Nuv mentioned before with Jason, they've reached back and they take that coin out. I think that is in world. But what's strange is they don't need to do that to go into those jumps.
Yeah.
Right? Zach just jumped and turned into a ranger. So I think it's one of those like asterisks.
Well, they did a couple different morphs, right? So like I remember when I think it was Billy, Rocky, and Kat were waiting for they were trying to set the trap. So they all morphed, but they didn't show each of them individually in the screen. Like they all just said their dinosaur, and then it just they instantaneously got into the suits. Like so I don't know. Maybe it's just it works. However, people like they wanted to work at that moment.
I think so.
But
and then when they were going back to the graveyard a year later, you could hear them calling it out from a distance too.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, no one is ever usually around when they morph, though. So that's the other reason why we don't have, I guess, a full answer. Because, like, there have been certain instances where they do actually show someone and this person sees them morph. So, and even Alpha was like, I never get tired of seeing that. And I was like, it clicked in my brain. Like, they don't just, like, vanish and then appear again.
Yeah, I thought, like Minha said, I thought it was just something that happened in the grid and didn't actually happen in real life. But I guess it happened. They just stand there and they do dinosaur morph.
Yeah.
I like that you have the actual morpher. I'm just using a Lego brick because I don't have one.
I have that too, but not on me. I can just use this belt. But
oh wait, it didn't
so I think it is like a mix. Like they say the stuff out loud and then they go into the grid.
It's just a goofy, silly time. I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah, and I think of it like the reason why Trini's daughter knows how to do it was after she found out they were rangers. She probably was like saw them, like they probably trained together or whatever. Because obviously she wouldn't have known when Trini was alive because she didn't know that they were rangers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she did see them morph. No. She at some point she must have figured it out somehow. But yeah, it was I don't know. It's one of those things that they don't really bother to explain unless they really want to, like in RPM where they explain the explosion stuff.
Oh my god, that scene is the best.
Yeah.
Iconic. But yeah, sometimes they want to and sometimes they don't, right? Like Power Rangers, the way the morphing grid works is like quantum physics, pretty much. It's like, good luck.
Or the Force.
The Force.
But, Akil, I think they give an answer to a question you had about the dinosaurs. Because Min was like, after they went to, like, they took that invisibility thing or whatever, and then they went to Rita's palace, and Min was, like, looking and she grabbed one. You miss it if you're not paying attention, but Alpha says, I should probably start warming up the volcano. I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, I did miss that.
Wait a minute. What do you mean you warm up the volcano to like get the Zords ready? Like, what is It's like, all right, I guess they go back into this volcano every time. They cause another volcanic eruption every time.
Each time, yeah. That's so funny. I guess that makes sense, but like also, oh my gosh! But they actually also mentioned that they like Billy has worked on the Zord so it can be operated without all the Rangers there. Right. So that last Zord scene, where I think it's just Billy and Trini's daughter.
And it looks weird with the 3 empty chairs. I want to say that it looks weird.
And they still had the crystals. It does look a little bit weird, but they still had the crystals. They put it in, and now they're using it as a joystick, which you don't really see that in the original.
Yeah.
And I thought that was neat. And I thought what was neat as well is even though this was all CGI, I would have loved if it wasn't, but even though it was all CGI, it looked exactly like the old sequence. Like
Yes.
on 1-to-1, it looked I didn't even like think it was a little bit different,
Yeah.
even though it was entirely CGI. It just looked shinier, and I was like, damn, this looks really, really good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think by having it like PlayStation 2 graphics CGI, they sort of kept the spirit of people in costumes fighting on a tiny
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it didn't affect me too. Like occasionally, I was like, "Oh, it looks a little weird," but whatever. I mean, like
Yeah.
it still looked good. Like it was fine for me. It's you know, I did like the fact that it looks, you know, like even when the pterodactyl came and then like became the chest plate and then the helmet or whatever the head came out, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like I jumped. I was just like, yes! Like, I was like, so excited.
And it's a good scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the,
I like-
the Megazord scene, it took me a minute to realize that it was CGI just because it looked so much like the miniatures that they used in the actual show.
Sure. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard they don't. What they did actually is there are people in the costumes when they do Megazord fights. So there's someone in a Megazord costume.
Yeah.
Oh, you said miniature.
Oh, for
Sorry,
the
they're-
actual individuals.
For when they come together to form the Megazord.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not people in costumes.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry,
no.
I thought you meant the Megazord itself. My bad.
Yeah. No,
The
no.
reason why the CGI was jarring to me, and yeah, it was only after the morphing sequence happens, right? The meshing of the Zords, because the other monsters were not CGI, which I thank God, but like they weren't. So it was kind of like a weird.
Yeah.
And then suddenly,
Well,
like, oh, also
yes.
Snizzard, which I think is an interesting choice of a monster because we watched the episode
Yeah.
where Snizzard was in. So I was thinking about you, Akil. I'm like, he knows who this guy
Yeah.
is.
And Minotaur. I knew both of them.
Yeah. And it
Really
made
weird.
sense.
Why did Snizzard?
Snizzard,
and we
well,
were-
Snizzard drains their power, so it
Yeah.
it
that's a
did
good
make
choice.
sense.
Makes
But he had
sense.
this like snake bite move also that like paralyzed them, which I was like, should have had that when you were first around, but okay.
Yeah, clearly he had a robot upgrade.
Yeah.
I love that it was Snizzard because we were like, what is this? Because I thought it was like a scissors snake, but apparently it wasn't. Originally, I remember we had this conversation, and you're like, no, it's like a snake lizard, and I'm
a
like,
snake
oh,
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
So like I had that conversation fresh in my mind when I was watching this. I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen, and I love it. I love that they use these ones because I always think about which monsters are memorable, especially with like 120 seasons of MMPR.
Yeah.
Not 120, 180 seasons of MMPR. Which ones are memorable, and I
Yeah.
like how it like certain monsters you really do stick out in your mind. Lizard.
Yeah.
Haha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they all got their robot upgrades, which Billy used to his advantage, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
And the putties, the way the putties died too, the graphics for when they died, I loved that.
Oh, you know what I wanted? When they were fighting in the youth center, I really wanted like a post-credit scene of hopefully Ernie, probably not Ernie, just like sweeping up rocks from the gym floor.
That would have been great.
That would have been so
That
Yeah.
would've
good.
been great.
The actor
did
who
have
played Ernie passed away, unfortunately.
Oh
so,
no.
But
R.I.P.
yeah,
Mhm.
it was like it was a couple of years ago. But yeah, so he unfortunately. But like it's interesting that they rebuilt the juice bar because the juice bar does go away in future seasons. So it makes sense, obviously. And it was pretty darn close to like how it looked, but obviously like modernized, for the time. That scene was great where Zach and Rocky show up and they just, they fight the putties and stuff. I like that.
And then
The
you see Zach's
dancing fight.
yes,
Yeah,
and then Trini's daughter's like, "What?"
yeah, hip hop keto. You
Yeah.
know? It was great.
Speaking of fighting styles, as soon as Min was like doing this, I'm like, praying mantis immediately. You can recognize that from MMPR, but you also Avatar: Last Airbender fans know that style. It is a real style, very unique, and it's
I was
so
thinking Kung Fu
great.
Panda, but okay.
Oh, okay, and Kung Fu Panda. We'll add that in there. So it's so great to see her do that because I was so excited. I was like, oh my god! Before they even mentioned praying mantis style, that's Trini's signature move. I was like, that's Trini's signature move. It's so good. I love that they did that.
I think she has an episode coming up or something where I think she has an episode where she fights a praying mantis.
Wait, is Min in Power Rangers right now?
No.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm in Trini. Like us, like
Trini.
in our rewatch, coming up in our
Episode when we're in
rewatch.
the rewatch,
Yeah,
an
my
episode's
bad.
coming up
Okay.
where she fights a praying mantis.
My apologies.
I
got
I
really
hope they.
excited
I
for
hope
a
they do
second
bring
there.
her back though for more. Like,
Yeah.
you know, now you've established her, so why only have her for one, episode? Might as well have her for a future thing.
Yeah.
Especially with what they're doing in the upcoming season.
Yeah.
Because like they're bringing back an MMPR villain in the upcoming season. So
Ooh.
yeah. So
Yes, like the
Snizzy.
future of Power Rangers has never been so up in the air.
Mhm.
I was actually kind of worried watching this. I'm like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to Power Rangers? Right?
Yeah.
I'm
It's
excited.
I'm excited too, but I also it's gonna be different,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you know what? Change is good.
Yeah.
Change. So it feels like, I don't know, scary almost for me because we've had the same, like we knew what to expect each time, right? Like, yeah, the Rangers changed and yeah, they each have their own personality, new villain, but you still knew what to expect.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's all up in the air now. But it's gonna be nice, like shake it up.
Yeah.
Like watching this, I'm like, this is so different. Like we never really see them actually stab someone through the gut. Like
Yeah.
it's that was so jarring to see. I
I
was
like it when Power Rangers
oh my
kill.
god.
Yeah. So this is another thing. Even saying the word "kill" is really not a thing on Power
Mhm.
Rangers. Like in the show, they say destroy, take down,
Yeah.
remove you from whatever. Anything. It's like being on TikTok
Enter
where
the
instead of
shadow
saying,
realm. Yeah.
there's just all these
Unalive.
other. Yeah.
Unalive. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's
With
just
like a at sign instead of like an A.
yeah,
Unalive.
yeah. But it's always like destroy them and stuff like that. So the fact
Yeah.
that even in the trailer, Minhas, like Rita says, like she mentions like killing Trini. I was just like, whoa, they said the K word. Like this is wild. Like my goodness,
Yeah.
it's a big.
And then they said the K word and we still can't get one kiss.
Yeah.
That's the wrong K word. But also, so one issue that I did have is they made a big deal about Min not killing Snizzard and Minotaur.
Yeah.
And sorry, I have Mandalorian on my mind. I was thinking Minotaur. But then they just killed Robo Rita.
Yeah.
So like, I guess it's like you need to
I think it's the
be
difference.
selfish versus selfless.
I think it was
No,
intention.
never escalate a fight unless needed. That's what that is.
But
Those-
Billy said she's distracted and then stabbed her through the back.
Yeah.
That seems like an escalation.
Yeah. I think it was more the intention.
Yeah.
I think because that part confused me too because I was like, but y'all destroy monsters all the time, so I'm not sure
They
like
don't
when
kill
she was.
them.
But they destroy him. So when he was like, "Oh, we're gonna trap them on this magnet," and she's like, "Why don't you just get rid of them?" He's
Yeah,
like,
just
"Nah," and I'm like, "Wait,
Why
I
not?
don't get the reasoning. That doesn't make any sense." It was just like a small.
Yeah.
It's not like the biggest issue, but I was just like, I don't get it. You destroy monsters all the time.
Yeah, why not?
I think because they didn't know that the snake bites were directly connected to the Rangers, and I think that they wanted they kind of were like needed them to figure out what was going on.
Right.
Kind of like
So I think the line should have been, "We don't know what happens if we destroy Snizzard. Like, how does that affect our friends?" I think that
Yeah.
would have just been a bit of a cleaner thing, because that would have made sense at least. Like I could buy that at least. It's like, oh yeah, well, but if we destroy him, does that destroy the Rangers too? Since they're like linked to him or something like that, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But that part was just like I think their intention was to be like, well, you shouldn't do it out of like vengeance or out of with this like but they didn't say that in that moment either. So I was just like,
If you're gonna
And
explode a monster, you need to do it for the right reason.
Essentially, though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what
Yeah.
it is.
Right.
That is what they like.
That's
You
what all
can't.
of Power Rangers is.
Yeah.
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 And it was really jarring for me to see Min be so in like enraged
Mm.
for so long, because
Yeah.
each ranger is not like, they don't have that personality, even if they're very different. That revenge driven, and I like that because it shows complication human emotions, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Not all of them can be like they said. The original ones have attitude.
Yeah.
They didn't. Min has attitude. Like that's what real attitude is.
Yeah.
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 No, but there definitely was a, even though they didn't have the attitude, but like in this, special at least, you could see a range, particularly with Zach and Billy, because they're the ones who got the most screen time. But like you could see a deeper range of emotions than they were ever given in the show, and so that was really nice to see. Like even like watching the Green Ranger saga, right? Like they lose their Zords and they're like sad, but they're not devastated, which maybe
Bummer.
Yeah, they're just like
Yeah, they're like, shucks.
They just got wrecked, from pillar to post, but they're just like, what are we gonna do now, kind of thing. Versus like, obviously it's a different scenario because it's a death of someone, but I just feel like the show didn't maybe want to go in those deeper emotions. Versus like this special, they were allowed to really like feel the weight of things. And so that was really nice to see.
It was really nice. This was such an emotional episode
Yeah.
for everyone involved, for all of us watching in, but like within the characters as well. And I think that's great. I think it's great to kind of see everybody as like actual. I know you have kind of a gripe with Rocky, Nev.
I just don't care. I'm indifferent to him. He's such a placeholder. I hate saying that because I don't have like I feel bad saying that, but he's such a placeholder. Like you'll find out, Akil, he comes in when Tommy's already the established like leader. It's already the Tommy Oliver show, so he's just there. He's literally
it's
just
not his fault.
I'm not saying it's his fault, but that doesn't make me care about him. Like we were talking. So Akil and I were doing this extra episode, and I was telling him one of the stories I was trying to tell him was Rocky gets addicted to a pachinko game, and it's like that's his story.
Rocky.
Yeah, that's his story. He gets addicted. Like there's just like who cares, man?
Yeah, but
like,
he's also good at science and like he loves eating, right?
No
like
one
he
knows
has
that.
this.
If you ask any other person for like 3 traits of Rocky, they can't give you one because he's such.
I gave you 3.
I said any other person. Any other person but us.
Anyone who doesn't focus so much on Rocky, and I think like for me, Rocky and Adam as a duo is just like I love them together. Like I've always found. Actually, I'm gonna scratch that. Rocky and Adam and Aisha as a trio. I love them, right? Like, I think like there was a lot of kind of backlash at their like introduction. It was jarring to see them come, and then you eventually warm up to them. Adam immediately kind of became a fan favorite. I liked the 3 of them. I thought they kind of brought a fresher look to the Rangers. I honestly was still a bit like bitter at the change, but like these Rangers kind of like have a close place in my heart. And as you guys know, I've read so many Rocky Adam fan fictions. Like there's like a lot of my youth is around reading Rocky Adam fan fiction. So I think that's how come I know so much about him. And he and many other Ranger actors have kind of got shafted by the Ranger franchise. He really got shafted by the Ranger franchise. And he was mad about it. Like the actor was mad about it for a really long time too. So I'm glad he came back. Like, he came back once before, fairly recently.
Oh, yeah, for Ninja Steel, I think.
Yeah, and then this one as well. So I think, like, in Ninja Steel, he also didn't have... Oh, like, Kat came back in that one, too.
Yeah.
But they all had just kind of, like, 1-second lines, and we're just like, hey, we're here, and then they, like, left, and then Tommy and Kat held hands and ran off into the wind. But...
Yeah.
Again, that was a huge discussion on the Ranger like fandom.
Yeah.
Honestly, like after that happened, everyone's like, "Are they still together?" They held hands. Like literally, the whole conversation was around the fact that they held hands in this season. And like some people were like, "That doesn't count," and other people were like, "Yes, it does."
It doesn't count. That's weird.
It is
does
weird.
count.
Like
It does count.
really, like
Hey,
really
yeah.
adamantly.
When you can't kiss anyone, holding hands counts.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the official. But yeah, so we're glad that like Rocky and Adam and Aisha were all here together again. I like seeing Aisha. Like we haven't seen her in forever. She is the cutest. She's still so adorable. Like her in her little space uniform, and she's like so excited to be there. And she's nice in real life. I've met her in real life, and she is the sweetest person.
Yeah. I think it was important to have her there because obviously you can't have Twee, so it was like really important to have her there. And like even that she literally had one, like I mean she was on screen for 2 scenes, but like that one moment at the end of her giving Min kind of her, you know, seal of approval, I thought that was really sweet, and it was a really good moment, you know, of like at least having some Yellow Ranger to be able to pass that on to her in a way. And yeah, I just really liked the special. I like the actress who plays Min. I like the character of Min. I think it's interesting. Hopefully, like I said, we get to see more of her. But yeah, the story was great. A lot of Easter eggs and references. I'll have to maybe I'll do a video about it. You know,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it again. Because I'm already craving to watch it again. So I think I'll definitely do more of a deep dive. But yeah, I thought it was overall like. When I say overall, there's like nothing I didn't like about it, right? I thought everything was so good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a good, and I thought it beforehand going in. I'm like, I expected it to be awesome. Like, I'm like, this is gonna be the best thing I've ever seen, and it is. So like,
it's great.
Yeah, it is great. I just feel a lot of emotions, and I'm sure a lot of us are feeling a lot of emotions. It took so much not to like message you, Nev, and kind of do a live.
You should have.
A live.
You should have. I love that. I love those. I was literally watching at the same time as you. I noticed because I didn't look at my phone actually though, so it's fine because like I wanted to just focus. I knew if I kept grabbing my phone, I'd miss something. I wouldn't see an Easter egg or these small because I started seeing how they were implementing all these little things. So I was like, I'm just gonna put my phone down. I'm gonna watch, and then like I grabbed my phone at the end, and then I saw your message, and it was like an hour before. I was like, oh, we literally decided to watch at the same time by chance. That's so funny.
Yeah. That is so funny. There's a lot of moments in this that like, so I didn't watch it. I kept rewinding. Watch it again. Rewind. There was like a lot of moments. I was like, so I mean, I feel like I should have watched it all in one thing, but I just couldn't. I was like, I have to go back. There's some things here that I'm missing and whatnot because there's just like so much going on.
Yeah.
Even though there was only one thing going on, right? Like all these little tidbits that were in the background. I'm like, all right, what was that? I missed it. Gotta go back. It was so good.
Yeah.
It just looked such an awesome episode. Does anyone have any? I mean, we didn't talk about the rad bug. Do you want to talk about it? It was a nice little homage.
Yeah, go for it.
Just tell me what you think of the new one. Yeah,
I thought it was nice. It was nice. I think it kept the spirit of the rad bug.
Yeah, it was like instead of
yeah.
And it was you don't have the antennae thing. Like it actually looked like nice.
And it still had like the weird gizmos on the front. There's a scene where Min was looking for a car outside of the command center.
Yeah.
And she like says too much of a flex to fancy car. I don't know what it was. Fancy car. Overdone to the motorcycle. I'm assuming Power Rangers have ridden motorcycles before.
Yeah.
That's what that was a reference to.
Before.
Okay.
There was a lot. Yeah.
Oh,
and then she pauses on the rad bug. And it like zooms in on her while she's like not saying anything, and I'm like, she better say more phenomenal right now.
Did she? I don't remember.
She didn't, but she should have.
Yeah.
That would have been funny.
That would have been great.
Would have been great. I love that scene too because she just like mows down these putties and like turn into rock. It was so I like this rad bug. It's like very slender and sleek and very telling to Billy's empire, like his little tech empire. He's really like honed his, and I'm so glad that Billy has a tech empire. I love that they added that in there because really like he put his skills to use. right?
Yeah.
And it's what he was this whole time. He's so useful, right? And he still is.
And a lot of
Like-
the episodes that we've seen so far, at least, are like him trying to not do that. Like him trying
Yeah.
to do what other people are doing, like dancing or trying to fit in or all that stuff. So it's really good that, you know, over time he sort of grew into himself a little bit more instead of trying to like do what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Yeah, and I think
And it
that's like
worked out for
really,
him.
yeah, I think it's really indicative of the teenage years and the teenage experience, and like growing up to come into your own.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice. Does anyone have any? I know I've been gushing through this entire episode. Does anyone have any final thoughts?
No.
It's a good
No,
episode.
yeah, it was just a lot of fun. Those are my thoughts. I have to watch it
Yeah.
again to really have more thoughts, but it was. I really enjoyed it. It was a great time. I think it's good for old fans, but also for people who haven't seen
Yeah.
much of it. I think they can still comprehend enough about what's going on.
Yeah, so cinematic.
Yes.
That's my final thought. Like, this is so beautiful for Power Rangers. I've never seen anything like. Oh no,
Yeah.
I lied. The MMPR movie also was just as cinematic, I think.
Right.
But
it also it still kept with the spirit of Power Rangers. So yes, it was more cinematic, but everything still looked.
oh,
and felt
sorry,
like
I meant
Power
the
Rangers.
99 version of the original
Yeah,
MMPR movie.
Oh, okay.
You haven't seen it yet.
I have not seen it.
Yeah.
No, he was talking about the special.
I was talking about this special. It still feels like Power
Oh, I
Rangers,
see, I
even
see.
though it's like more dynamic camera and the lighting and the angles and all of that's different. It still felt like Power Rangers.
It did really still feel like, even though it was more serious, it was still
Yeah.
like campy, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
so it's like, this is how you balance. This is how you balance it. Yeah. Right. All right, cool. I guess that is it for this special episode. And then we'll go back to our regular. I know we had 2 episodes in a row that weren't about, and we were already talking about how this is going to take us forever to get through. But
Yeah.
we'll get back to our regularly. I think it was a perfect place to do it after Green with Evil. It's a perfect place to
for
take a break
sure.
anyway. So now we can get back into the vibe. We'll see us next time talking about the original MMPR series, and we'll get back into that track. This is amazing. 30 years. What a time. It's like been in mine and Nev's like consistently. It's crazy. It's crazy. And until next time, more phenomenal.
Once a Ranger,
Always a Ranger.